right, good morning, Covenant Church. What's going on? Oh, come on, I heard you're rowdier than that. What's happening? It's for him, huh? Come on. Good morning. Good morning. Man, I love that final song we did. I like that little line that says, at the mention, y'all might not like this. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. But I like it, so I'm gonna just tell you about it. Because Hispanic people, we do stuff like that. We're just gonna give it to you if you like it or not. So just be ready for it, because that's what this service is gonna be like. I'm not asking for permission, I'm just gonna put it out there, okay? But anyways, back to the important thing. That last song, at the mention of your name, darkness has to flee. Woo! Come on, man. Isn't that good? I'm just telling you, every once in a while, you don't gotta know the right answer, you don't gotta know the right logic, you don't need to figure out who's gonna be a part of the plan, you don't need to know what resources are gonna be a part of the plan. Sometimes you just gotta walk in there and you just gotta know one name, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Because I've tried it the other way. I've done it this way. Tell me if you've ever done it this way. I start saying my name. Come on, G, you got this. Come on, G, you got this. Halfway through it, I'm like, I ain't got it. I ain't got it. And then I gotta make that switch and say, come on, Lord. You gotta help me in this thing, Father. You got any of those I just need to speak his name moments in your life? Come on, stand to your feet right now. Let's just pray about this. Come on, stand to your feet. You got a moment in your life you just need to speak his name? We don't need to go through a whole service to get to this. We can get to it right now. Father, we thank you right now in Jesus' mighty name that everybody that is standing knowing that when they speak your name, darkness has to flee. Right now, Father, we call on your name. The name that is above every name, Father. The name that knows no bounds, Father. The name that every knee bows and confesses to. The name of Jesus. It is the name that you have deposited in our heart. It is the name that we live and move by. It is the name that we trust from now to eternity. We're thankful for it in Jesus' mighty name. Come on, are you thankful for his name this morning? Yeah, I am. Woo! Come on. Come on. It's all for him. Come on, it's all for him. Come on, it's all for him. I love his name. His name is more better than my name. Y'all go ahead and sit down. Come on. Hey, really quick as you're seated, can you help me welcome our Crossroads campus? They're watching this morning. Crossroads, where you at? We love you. Mwah. I miss you. Y'all better behave because I'll be going back over there next week, okay? I got to take care of that. Hey, you might hear me speak. You might hear a little acento in my voice. Y'all know what that means? Anybody watch Dora in here? I'm gonna give you a little Spanish class really quick. Acento, a little dot. Where are my Hispanic people at? Y'all didn't even know we were in here, did you? We in here. We everywhere. I was in Cuba with some friends a couple months ago, and I ran into a buddy. His name is Raulito. Now, in case you're confused, his name really doesn't have an ito attached to the back of it, but that's what Hispanics do to everybody's name. If you don't believe me, just drive down the street, any street you want, lower the window. All you got to do is go like this. Ito! 5 or 6 people are going to turn around right away. Tell me? So anyways, I was with Raulito, who's he grew up in the church. His dad's a pastor, and he tells me, hey, Guy, I got to tell you this story, man. He said, I do this thing where I give out ice cream, and he's from Cuba, so giving out ice cream is kind of a big deal. And I met this guy, and I brought him over to the house, started giving him ice cream, and helped him get his life back together. And he was struggling with some addictions. And he said, we invited him to the church. I was like, man, that's good. He said, no, I'm not finished. Came to the church. He started ushering, then he started greeting. Then one day they were having a prayer meeting. And Raulito said, I thought it would be a good idea to let him pray. He said the man got up there. He was like, I'm just so thankful to be here this morning. I'm just thankful for everything that God has done. I'm thankful. Pray for the offering. Pray for the people. Pray for the carpet. Pray for the ceiling. Pray for the water that the dogs were drinking out in the alley. And then he gets to the end of his prayer and he goes, and we pray all these things in the name of, God, I'm so sorry. I forgot the name of your son. Come on, don't forget his name. That's the name that is above every name. Yeah, amen. Friends, let me pray. I always like to start every message with a prayer. I'm going to pray, and then we're going to jump right in. We got some good stuff to talk about this morning, okay? Father, we thank you for today. We thank you that you're with us. We thank you for your love and joy and peace. We thank you, Father, for your never-ending promises that are always and forever will be yes and amen. in Jesus' mighty name. Come on, church, can I get an amen in here? Amen, awesome. Awesome. So a couple weeks ago, actually last week, we started a brand new series titled A Fruitful Life. One fruit, 9 different flavors. Now, if you're new to church or you've been around church for a while, you will have heard or you will hear this term, living a life that produces the fruit of the Spirit. What that basically means is that us as Christians, as we live our life, there should be certain qualities, certain tendencies, certain traits that we produce that are evident to the people around us of the kind of life that we live. I want to keep this really simple, but we're all made up of spirit, soul, and body. We have a body, that's the flesh. It has certain desires, certain characteristics, certain tendencies. We have a soul, it's our emotional state, it's our cognitive mind, it's the qualities that make us very unique to who we are as individuals. And we have a spirit given to us by the Father who is always trying to connect back to his creators, their creator. Now, each one of these attributes have certain character traits, certain tendencies, a certain way of being. I love the way that Scripture creates these stunning analogies comparing our lives to certain elements. Sometimes it's things in nature, sometimes it's a teaching of Jesus. But one of my favorite ones is the way that Scripture illustrates our lives like that of a tree. Jeremiah put it this way, "But blessed is he who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him." Blessed is he who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when he comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to produce fruit. I think that's a pretty good list. I feel like if anybody would ask us how we want to live our lives, and we would say, they would ask you this question: would you want to live your life in such a way that you would be as the tree described in Jeremiah? We'd go, yeah, absolutely. We want to live that kind of life. We want to live the kind of life where our trust in God gives us confidence. We want to live the kind of life where we're rooted and planted, flourishing in season and out. We want to live the kind of life where we are always bearing, meaning producing healthy evidence, healthy fruit of a life that's dedicated to God. I'm always fascinated by the way that Jesus spoke to the disciples and the masses. You know, Jesus had an incredible way of saying what people were thinking before they even said it. Moms do the same thing. My mom used to look at me, she'd go, "What? You said something?" I'm like, "I didn't say nothing." I mean, I thought about it, but I didn't say it because I don't want to get slapped. I'm trying to get slapped. I got a slap before. Really quick, can I tell you, because I like second service better than first. Listen, my mom was on the phone one time. I walked in the house. I said, "Psst, hey," just like that. I'm not even exaggerating. I know preachers exaggerate. I'm telling you just like I did it at 14 years old. "Psst, cuelga el teléfono." That means hang up the phone. See what I did? Pink. Hung up the phone. You know what I did? I was like, I'm the man in my house. Man, I grabbed that phone. I was doing like this. I was like walking around the house with the phone because I had the cord. You know, you had the cord back in those days, right? Hung up the phone. 3 or 4 hours later, I ain't even lying. 3 or 4 hours later, we're walking to my cousin's house. And my mom, she's looking like this, look. I'm like, what is she doing? She keeps eyeing me. All of a sudden, y'all, out of nowhere, that woman slapped me so hard. I was like, what just happened? It's like, she hit me so hard, I forgot my name and then remember why she hit me. The next day I walked in, I was like, "Hey, Mom, you think, could I possibly, I don't want to inconvenience you, but can I use the phone?" Jesus used to do that. You'd be thinking something, he'd be like, boom, get you some. In Luke chapter 6, verse 44, Jesus is with the disciples and the masses, and he says this: "Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People will judge you by who you are and what you do. Do not pick figs from people don't pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. You produce what you are. There ain't no way around it. And in case you like faking it till you make it, because that's a good little saying that goes on, right? Jesus says it this way. I like the way it says it in the Message. I like the Message Bible. When I read the Message Bible, I almost feel like God's going, psst, you didn't, I saw in your eyes that you didn't get what I was saying. Let me give it to you another way. Come on, niño, ven para acá. Come here, let me tell you something. And then he says it in the Message, and he says it this way. You don't get wormy apples off a healthy tree. You ain't faking it till you make it. Sooner or later, when we get on the inside, people know what's up. You don't get wormy apples from a healthy tree, nor good apples from a diseased tree. The health of the apple tells the health of the tree. You don't like the evidence of the things that are around you in life? It's not anybody else's fault because it's produced by what's in me first. Y'all didn't like that. That's okay. I'm gonna move on. Don't get mad at me. It's Jesus that said it. You must begin with your own life-giving lives. Say this with me. It starts with me. I was driving one day down 35, man, I was so mad. I'm not gonna look at anybody when I say this in case that person's here in the church, I don't want. I was driving, I looked next to me, texting, with two hands. I was driving like this. I cannot believe this person. Make eye contact with me. Look at me. Hispanics, we're in everybody's business. I'm like, I was so busy, frustrated with what they were doing that I lost my sense of intelligence to understand that I was driving down the same highway they were driving. And when I read this verse, it says the same thing. Don't be so busy looking to your right and to your left that you forget that you are actually in the seat of authority in your own life because it begins with you. Look at somebody and say this, I love you, but I ain't got time to be worrying about you. I got to worry about me. Just look at them, tell them. You've been wanting to tell them this the whole time. Just go ahead and tell them right now in church. They can't hit you, just tell them. They can't hit you. I ain't got time to be worrying about you. I got to worry about me. The Apostle Paul, who's one of the greatest apostles of all time, pens this incredible book to the Galatians. And in this book, he uses the phrase that we are speaking of while we do this series. He begins to talk about the fruit of the Spirit. Galatians chapter 5, I'm gonna start off in verse 19 because I feel like it. I ain't got no spiritual reason for it, I'm just gonna do it. Galatians chapter 5, verse 13 says this, you, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. Jesus didn't call you to be bound. He didn't call you to be enslaved. He called you to be free. Just want to get that out of the way. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. I know, they take your parking spot, their grass is overgrown, they're too loud, their kids use their chalk walk paint on your driveway, but love them anyways. That didn't happen to me, If you bite and devour each other, watch out or you will be destroyed by each other. I heard a little grumbling. So I say, walk by the Spirit and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you're not to do whatever you want. Listen, it doesn't matter if you've been a Christian for a minute or if you've been a Christian for 25 years. Inside of every one of us, there is a constant battle, a struggle, a little war that is taking place for us to make the decision whether we're gonna yield to the earthly, fleshly desires that Paul's gonna describe to us, or we're gonna yield to godly desires. The key is being aware that that is taking place. Awareness is the key to success. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Well, okay, Paul, what you got? Verse 19, listen to this. The acts of the flesh are obvious. Sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. By that time, if I was there, I would have been like, Paul, why are you so mad all the time, man? This is why you don't have any friends. You're just mad. But he's telling us something. If we're drawn and led by the flesh produces certain kind of fruit. He lists what the fruit is. And then he says this, I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God, the promise of God, the goodness of God, the peace of God, the love of God, the joy of God. This is what Paul is saying. Let me read it to you in the Message Bible. It says it this way. It is obvious what kind of life develops out of trying to get your own way all of the time. I mean, that doesn't apply to any of us, but in case there's one person in here that this applies to, I'm gonna read it anyways. Trying to get your own way all the time. Repetitive, loveless, cheap sex, a sinking accumulation of mental and emotional garbage, frenzied and joyless grabs for happiness, trinket gods, magic show religion, paranoid loneliness, cutthroat competition, all-consuming yet never satisfying wants, a brutal temper, and impotence to love or to be loved, divided homes and divided lives, small-minded and lopsided pursuits, the vicious habit of depersonalizing everyone into a rival, uncontrolled and uncontrollable addictions, ugly parodies of community. I could go on and on. Now listen, friends, I know that there isn't one person in this room that wakes up in the morning and says, today is a good day to have all of these attributes active in my life. This is not the kind of life that we desire to live. We desire to live the kind of life that is producing healthy fruit as evidence of being yielded and submitted to the one who created us. What does that look like? In Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, Paul goes on to say, this is how you should live. The fruit of the Spirit. Say this with me. I want the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And then he says this, against such thing there is no law. Go ahead and have seconds, thirds, fourth. Lord, you can practice this, have as much of it as you want, give as much of it away as you want. There is no restriction to how much love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control you can have in your life. You can have as much of it as you want. I want that. He says it this way in the Message. But what happens when we live God's way, which is the way that we want to live? What happens when you live this way? He brings gifts into your lives, much the same way that fruit appears in an orchid. Things like affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. We develop a willingness to stick with things, a sense of compassion in heart, and a conviction that a basic holiness permeates things and people. You see the mindset that he's describing? The outlook is so much different. He says we find ourselves involved in loyal commitments, not needing to force our way, able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. That's the kind of life that we want to live. We want to live that way. Galatians 5:22 and 23 describes the kind of life, the fruit, the evidence of a life that's rooted and planted in God and not in our own desires. I want to share with you a couple of these so that we can discuss them. Now, I said a couple, so some of you automatically thought that I meant two, but let me tell you, can I vent about something really quick? Because I had this little problem in my life. I need some counseling. Let me ask you a question. I go through Chick-fil-A, and I say, can I get a couple barbecue sauces? How many sauces do you expect? Y'all are stingy. Listen, when I say two, this is what I mean. I'm expecting you, to be overflowing with exceeding joy, and I want you to just reach in there and grab a bag. You can grab a handful and just put like 5 or 6 in there. Boom. So I know I said a couple, y'all automatically went to 2, but it might be several for you in your vocabulary, okay? But we're gonna talk about several of these today. Here's the first one that I wanna talk about. I wanna talk about love. If you're living a life dedicated to God, you will live a life of love. And here's what I understand about love. Love is a difficult thing because many of us love based off how we have been loved. And sometimes you can look at your past, find all the moments where you loved more than you were loved, and then you make this proclamation over your life. I'll never love in that way again. I'm never giving myself. that much again. I'm never exposing my heart as much as I did in that moment. And friends, here's what I want to tell you this morning. My prayer is that if you find yourself in that area, that today God would begin to do what only He can do to restore your heart, to heal those areas so that you can love as the Father has called you to love, not in the way that you have been loved by other people. God has called us to love. I love the way that Dr. King expressed it. He says this: man must evolve from all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. And then he says this: the foundation of such a life is love. Love is important. There is no one that modeled love in a greater capacity than Jesus. Jesus modeled love perfectly. Speaking of Jesus, in John chapter 1, verse 9 and 11, it says this: the true light that gives light into everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. He came to that which he loved, and those that he loved did not receive him. That hurts. Doesn't feel great. But Jesus never withheld his love. It was in the midst of being rejected that Jesus, walking along the shore, calls men to follow him. It was in the midst of the rejection that Jesus is in a wedding and performs his first miracle, turning water into wine, so the disciples could believe in his sovereignty. It was in the midst of Jesus being rejected that he was on a boat on the Sea of Galilee, and he stands up, and with his very words, he calms the winds and the waves. I'm gonna just tell you right now, I'm gonna keep going till you get it. It was in the midst of Jesus being rejected that he sat across the table by the man named Judas who would betray him, and he still broke bread with him. It was in the midst of Jesus being rejected that he was held to a cross by his love for those who didn't appreciate him, and rose from the dead, gloriously giving us an opportunity to live in eternity with him. Jesus loved in the midst of rejection. Why do I bring that up? Because I know what you're thinking. Pastor, you're talking about love. You don't know her. You don't know him. You're right. I don't. Love him anyways. You don't know my boss, because if you knew my boss and you knew the way my boss treated me. By the way, little disclaimer here, I love my boss. My boss is awesome. I love Pastor Steven and Erica and everything they're doing for Covenant Church. So I don't want anybody to get anything twisted. I ain't trying to say nothing about nothing. I'm talking about your boss, not my boss. But your boss, you might walk into work every day and be like, I don't like my boss. He's always mean. He's always critical. It doesn't matter. You ain't loving him for who he is. You're loving him out of who you are. Love them anyways. You don't know how they treated me. They lied to me. They cheated on me. They abused my talent and my creativity and dismissed my value. Guess what? They rejected Jesus, and he loved them anyways. When you understand the power of love, you refuse to live your life in hatred. Love is a gift from God which makes you immune to the tyranny of hatred. Love is freedom. And if you want to love, you allow God to work in you. Many times in life, the reason that we withhold love is because we only want to love people that we share some kind of commonality with. And so if I haven't been through what you've been through, or we're not from the same hood, and your mommy didn't cook the tamales like my mommy cooked the tamales, and I don't, you know what I mean? I ain't got time to love you. I want to love people that are just like me. I was reading this study that's found in a book by Adam Grant, who's a behavioral psychologist, titled Give and Take. And in this book, he talks about a study that was done over in Europe. Any soccer fans in here? Anybody like soccer? Y'all about to get undone. Where are the Cowboy fans at? All right, check this out. I'm gonna change this up a little bit because I want to stay relevant. I talk about. By the way, Cubans don't play soccer. I don't want to talk about soccer after church. Okay, we play baseball. Now you know. So look. They did this study. I'm talking about loving people based off commonality. And here's what they did. I want you to imagine this with me. They went to Jerry World, and they gave a New York Giants jersey to somebody that was part of the study. And they said, here's what we want you to do. We want you to be walking, and all of a sudden just be like, fall on the floor. Pretend like your ankle's hurting. True study. And we're going to see who helps you and who doesn't. When the Cowboy fans were walking by, now remember, I mixed it up a little bit because there ain't no soccer fans in here, okay? But the real study is soccer, but we're talking about football. When the Dallas Cowboy fan walked by the man with the New York Giants jersey, they said, man, I really hope somebody helps him, and they kept walking. True story. 33% of the people helped him. They took that same individual, and they changed their jersey, and they gave him a Cowboys jersey. It was really Manchester United, but again, they gave him a Cowboys jersey. And when the Cowboy fan was walking by and saw another Cowboy fan, guess what they did? Hey, bro, you all right, my man? How can I help you? Come here, get up. You all right? Why are you crying like a little girl, man? Get up, come on. Why is that? Because we want to love based off commonality. And friends, let me tell you this. All of us started off the same common ground. We were lost, dysfunctional, broken, abandoned, forgotten, and if it wasn't for the common ground of God's forgiving grace, we wouldn't even be here this morning loving and worshiping together. Learn to love people. Love at all costs. Love is freedom. Here's the second thing. Paul said, have love in your life, and then he said this, have joy in your life. Live a life of joy. Learn to rejoice. Learn to be happy. Learn to have a little bit of gladness in your life. Paul is speaking of a joy that we have when we share in positive experiences with each other. When we recognize that God is doing something special and unique. Joy is a decision that we make. For example, at the end of this service, and we do it every service, and we'll always do it, we have a moment where we give an invitation for individuals who haven't given their life to their Father or have been living really close but not all in to make the decision to surrender to God. And we call it a moment of salvation, a moment of rededication. And in that moment, many people make the decision. And then what happens? We all cheer and we all applaud and we share in the joy of surrendering your life to God. That's what Scripture is talking about. Paul is speaking of a joy that is influenced by community. It's real easy. Sometimes we try to find joy by what's happening around us. And let me tell you, that isn't necessarily the truth. We don't have to wait for good days to have a life of joy. Making the decision to walk in joy is what makes the day good. Sometimes you just got to wake up and start thinking about great things and all that God has done. And in that moment, you will have joy in your life. There was a time in Julie and I's life where I was working 4 jobs. One of those jobs was UPS, 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Somebody said, oh, yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning. Let me tell you what happened. Julie was pregnant with Bella, our oldest. And I'm working in UPS, doing the hustling, right? Passing the boxes, doing all of that. Listen, I stepped out of the back of that truck. Boom, rolled my ankle so big, it looked like somebody put a grapefruit in it. The funny thing is I'm on the floor, you know what I mean? Like just hurting and crying. Everything is all over the place. And my buddy later goes, man, I looked over there and I thought, man, what's she doing all over the floor? And all the packets going to her. I said, bro, I almost died. You didn't even help me. He's like, you just twisted your ankle. But anyways, I had this boot on. Julie's pregnant. I'm working 4 jobs. I ain't happy. I was mad. I was upset. I went down the whole list. What did I do and who did it and whose fault is it? And one day, man, I just pumped the brakes and slowed down. I said, God, you know what? Thank you. I didn't break my ankle. Thank you that my family is healthy. Thank you that I have the opportunity to work 4 jobs because I could have been working no jobs. I got 4 and I'm working them. You see what I'm saying? You make the decision to find joy. You reach into the past and you see all the faithful promises that God has fulfilled, and you reach into the future and you find all the future promises that He has yet to give you, and with everything that you got, you just yank those right into your present and you let it be the evidence that you need to find joy in your life. You make the decision. You find the children of Israel getting ready to cross the Jordan, and before they cross the Jordan, God's like, hey, hold on just a minute. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take 12 stones, and I want you to put them on the other side of the bank. And man, they just complain about everything. That's why I think some of them are Hispanic, because we Hispanics, we complain about everything. It could be really good. We'll still find a reason to complain. But anyways, so they put the stones on the other side of the Jordan. And they're like, why do we have these stones on the other side of the Jordan? And God says, you're going to be walking down this land one day. And when you do, your kids are going to ask you what those stones represent. And you're going to tell them of how faithful God has been in your life to deliver you from the hand of Pharaoh, to provide nourishment and food and a cloud of protection and give you everything that you need so that you can cross over into the promised land. Because you will have those days where his promises seem far. But let me tell you, friends, this Jesus that you and I are worshiping together this morning is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if he did it yesterday, he's probably going to do it today, and he will most likely do it again tomorrow. Make the decision to focus on things that bring you joy. Sometimes you just got to talk happy. I've never seen a person talk happy and be grumpy at the same time. Find things to be happy about. Live a life of love, live a life of joy, and lastly, live a life of peace. Have peace in your life. Harmony, tranquility, safety, health, quietness, rest. I almost left this one out because I know none of us want this right here. Come on, you want some peace in your life? Let me tell you something about peace. Peace doesn't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. Peace is not influenced by what's happening around you, but what's happening around you is influenced by the peace that is inside of you. Let me pen it this way. Your environment is not responsible for your peace, but your peace is responsible for your environment. Make the decision to allow the peace of God that is inside of you to permeate and influence every environment that you're in. Make that decision. Jesus is in the Sea of Galilee, man, and the waves were going all crazy, and the disciples were just running amok, frustrated, panicking, and they're like, this is what they said, obviously, Jesus has no idea of how crazy it is because he's sleeping. And you know Jesus heard him. And I wonder if Jesus was saying, obviously, they have no idea of the peace that is in them. And Jesus stands up and with his very words releases the peace that is inside of him, and he calms the wind and the waves. And the disciples marveled at this, and they looked at each other and said, who is this man that the wind and the waves are at his command? And I wonder if Jesus would have told them, if you would just take a minute and release the peace that I've deposited in you, and you allow that to begin to come out of you, you will realize that you can influence your environments. It's easy to live a life full of anxiety and worry and creating environments. And have you ever talked your way into something that never happened? You get, oh man, worked up. I'm talking about, you know what kind of worked up I'm talking about? You're in the parking lot, you're glad your windows are rolled up. You're like, I'm gonna walk in there, I'm gonna tell them, and they're gonna tell me this, and I'm gonna tell them that, and then they're gonna say this, and then I'm gonna say that, and then I'm gonna look at them like this, and then I'm just gonna be like, what? And you walk in and they're like, hey man, how you doing? And they're so nice. You're mad that they're so nice because you wanted to give them the business. And you didn't get a chance to do it because God whispered your name in a room you hadn't yet walked in. We get all worked up. In Philippians, it says it this way: do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, in every situation, by prayer and petition, put a little thanksgiving on it, present your request to God. And when you do that, it says this, that the peace of heaven, that peace, the peace that was released on a world that was formless and in chaos, that peace, the peace of God, will transcend all your understanding and will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. Look, it's really easy to look at somebody and go, yeah, I understand why they're behaving that way because their entire life is a mess. I've been that person. But man, when you look at somebody and you see evidence and every reason for their life to be crazy and their minds to be running wild, and yet they're centered and at peace, at that moment you realize that what they're living does not come from themselves. Or it comes from the love of God deposited in their mind and in their heart, and it's a peace that transcends every cognitive ability that you have. It's beyond understanding. I want that peace. I know that you want to live that kind of peace. We want to live that way. Really quick, as I bring this to a close, let me ask you a question. Think about your life for a minute. Think about it, really think about it. What areas of your life lack peace? What areas? We all have one or two. What areas? Have you taken the time to talk to God about those areas? Have you taken the time to just take a little break and ask God to give you peace in those areas? Father, this isn't working out the way that I wanted it to. I'm a little frustrated right now. I feel uneasy. I'm a little anxious. But God, I need your peace in my life right now. I need a peace that surpasses my understanding. I want you to deposit that inside of me. I want to be able to walk into these arenas and into these environments and not be influenced by the environment, but allow the peace that is in me to influence the environment that I'm in. Friends, when you begin to do that, you will find a harmony that is impossible to duplicate. It comes from God, but it begins with you because it all begins with you. Let me close with this. Paul said it this way. You want to live a life that's submitted to the Father? You want to live God's way? I know we want to live God's way. He brings gifts into our lives much the same way that fruit appears in an orchid. Things like affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. We develop a willingness to stick with things, a sense of compassion in heart, and a conviction that a basic holiness permeates things and people. We find ourselves involved in loyal commitments, not needing to force our way in life, able to marshal and direct energies wisely. You want to live a life dedicated to God, producing love, joy, peace, patience, forbearance, gentleness, goodness, self-control. That's the kind of life that we want to live. We want to live God's way, rooted and established, unshakable and unmovable. You're going to leave this service and you're going to begin your week. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. As you begin your week, I want to encourage you to find ways to love. I'm not talking about find people that deserve it, because the truth is there was a point when none of us deserved it. But find ways to love. Find ways to live a life where you are choosing joy. Focus on the good. Focus on the blessing. Focus on the victories. Reflect on His promises. Make a decision this week to allow God's peace to influence your life in everything that you do. And if you do, here's what you'll find. You will bear much fruit, showing to be His disciples. Now look, I've tried to do this on my own, and I failed. I can't produce this kind of fruit on my own. We need God to be with us, in us, for us to bear much fruit. Maybe you came in this morning and you've never surrendered your life to Jesus. You've been trying to live your life on your own, making your own decisions, being your best coach, guiding yourself. Today is a good day for you to make a decision to surrender to the one that surrendered for you, to give your life to Him, to allow the Holy Spirit to work in you and through you so that you bear much fruit. Maybe you've been going to church for a long time, but you've been on the fringes, close enough to feel like you're a part, but not deep enough to feel like you got to put a little sweat equity into it. Today is a good day to go all in. I want to invite you really quickly to close your eyes and bow your heads. If you've never surrendered your life to Him, today is a good day to surrender your life to Him. If you've been on the fringes, waiting, today you can go all in. Church, help me pray this prayer together. Let's make it ring in here. Say, Jesus, this morning, I give you my life. I give you my heart. I thank you that you died on the cross for me so that I can live in eternity with you. Because of you, I am saved. Holy Spirit, be my guide, my counselor, my helper. Help me to bear much fruit. In Jesus' mighty name. And the church said, come on, church, can you give me a big amen? Are you thankful this morning? Come on, stand to your feet with me. Are you thankful?